Let's talk about something that quietly shapes your entire life: financial literacy. It's this huge, often invisible issue that has a massive impact on everything, from your day-to-day budget all the way to your retirement dreams. And no, that's not an exaggeration. Study after study from pretty much every corner of the globe points to the same startling truth. Most adults just aren't equipped with the basic financial knowledge they need. And we're not just talking about, tracking your spending. We're talking about the huge decisions that really define your future. So, what does it actually mean to be financially literate? Well, researchers have kind of boiled it down for us. They've landed on three core concepts that are so important, they've become known as the Big Three. These are the absolute pillars. First up, compound interest. Do you really get how your money can start making its own money? Second, inflation. Do you understand that silent thief that's always eating away at the value of your savings? And third, risk diversification, which is just the classic advice, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. If you can honestly say you understand all three of those, then congratulations, you're in a surprisingly small club. Now, this gap in knowledge, it's not the same for everyone. When we actually break down the data, some really specific patterns start to emerge, and they show us who's most at risk of being left behind. One of the things that pops up in the data again and again, no matter where you look, is a clear gender gap. On average, men tend to score higher than women on these financial literacy tests. And what's really wild is that this isn't just about culture. This gap shows up early in life and it sticks around, even in countries with really high levels of gender equality. Age plays a fascinating role here too. You can almost think of your financial knowledge over your lifetime as an arc. It tends to grow as you gain experience, and it usually peaks in middle age. But then it often starts to decline as we get into our later years. This creates two really vulnerable spots: when we're just starting out, and again when we're in retirement. All right, so why does any of this actually matter? I mean, this isn't just about passing some academic quiz. Lacking this kind of knowledge has real, tangible, and sometimes pretty painful consequences that can shape a person's entire financial life. And the links here are just crystal clear. People with lower financial literacy, they're less likely to plan for retirement. They're more likely to be financially fragile, meaning, they can't handle a surprise bill, and they end up paying way more to borrow money. The bottom line is, this knowledge gap leads directly to a wealth gap. It's that simple. The obvious answer to all this seems to be more education, right? But what does a good financial education program actually look like? What should it even teach? Fortunately, there's a pretty clear blueprint out there. A group called the Jumpstart Coalition, they're big leaders in this space, and they've laid out 6 core areas. It all starts with the basics: earning income and spending. Then it moves into those crucial habits of saving and investing. And finally, it covers the more complex stuff like managing credit and managing risk like insurance. It's a really comprehensive roadmap for a lifetime of financial decisions. Okay, so having a great roadmap is one thing, but here's the million-dollar question. Do these programs actually work? Do they change how people behave with their money? Let's see what the evidence says. So this number you're looking at, it comes from a massive analysis of 76 different studies. We're talking the gold standard of research here. And what it tells us, basically, is financial education does work. It has a small but consistently positive effect. Now, it's not a magic wand, but it does reliably nudge people toward making better financial choices. But, that word average can hide a lot. The truth is the impact of these programs is all over the map. It depends so much on how they're delivered, where, and to who. To really get this, let's look at a fascinating real-world evaluation from India's National Financial Education Strategy. And this is where things get really interesting and kind of complicated. Just look at this feedback on how long the program was. In northern India, more than 60% of people said, yep, the program was long enough. But you go down to the south, and wow, that number just tanks to about 22%, with almost half the people wishing it had been longer. It's a perfect example of why a one-size-fits-all approach just doesn't cut it. So if the results vary this much, what are the secret ingredients for success? What separates a program that actually helps from one that's just a waste of everyone's time? Well, the research points to some very clear answers. Man, the difference is like night and day. Over on the left, you've got the stuff that just doesn't really work. Handing out a brochure, a single seminar, making people sit through a boring lecture. But on the right, you see the formula for success. These are programs that are intensive, we're talking multiple hours. They have to be super relevant to people's actual lives, And they have to get people doing things, not just listening. And really, this all boils down to this single most important takeaway, which the researchers summed up perfectly. The results of programs hinge critically on contextual features. In other words, context is everything. The success or failure of a program depends entirely on how well it's designed and tailored for the specific people it's trying to help. Which leaves us with this final, really critical question. If we can improve someone's financial knowledge, does that automatically improve their financial well-being? Well, the evidence says it's a vital first step, for sure. But closing that gap between what you know, what you do, and how you actually feel about your money, well, that's the real challenge, isn't it?